let's not talk only about children. It starts much earlier. It starts impacting the pregnant women. We know there are studies to show that there are premature deliveries, there are premature deaths, and damage happening to the fetus and to the mother even before the baby is born. And 40% of children had deranged lung capacity. Now you may not know it. It's like I may have an artery block, but unless it reaches a critical level, I'll go on with normal function. But the damage has taken place. This is wholly preventable. It's like, you're willingly killing somebody. It's as bad as that. Unless the public then makes it an election issue that we will. So you make this an issue. Clean air is an issue. Whichever party comes to power, I couldn't care to which party they are from. This is something which needs to be promised, and this is something which needs to be delivered.
Happy to have you on the show today. Just for a quick half-an-hour chat with the pediatrician and noted Delhi's pediatrician, Dr. Nitin Verma, to speak about what this overwhelming pollution is doing to your children and how you can actually protect them in the best possible way in these circumstances. So thanks everybody for joining in.
I'm going to do this really quickly, Doc, so I can let you go. Pollution, and I think this is a conversation we have every year. So my point is, it's not changed. It's not looking like it's going to change. Things are going to change. This impact that accumulates over the years. It's not like every year you come out fresh because, you've already got some damage from the previous year, haven't you?
Yes, absolutely. And, if you look at it, let's not talk only about children. It starts much earlier. It starts impacting the pregnant women. We know there are studies to show that there are premature deliveries, there are premature deaths, and damage happening to the fetus and to the mother even before the baby is born. So the lungs of the baby are immature, they are growing. The baby breathes much faster. Children breathe much faster than adults do, and so they take in much more air. Their brain is growing, their lungs are growing. And there's absolutely no study to show how much damage we are doing to these babies. And it's for sure that this damage is irreparable. We talk of things and we know. So certain things we know that, that there are going to be damage to the lungs, there are going to be pneumonias, there are going to be asthma. Later on in life, these children will go in for chronic pulmonary diseases. There are more incidences of leukemias and many other cancers which are happening. Now, say somebody who lives in Delhi is going to live 5 years less than somebody who lives in a less polluted place. So if this is what is going to happen to adult, mature lungs and organs, you can't even begin to imagine the amount of damage that we are doing to children. We have to transcend borders and political parties and blame, have to find a solution. This just can't just go on and on and on, because it's not apparent. When somebody, let's say even say a 50-year-old has a heart attack and dies, you say, oh, it's so bad. But we are not going into the causes and seeing that maybe pollution was one of the causes which killed him. So a huge amount of damage is being done, and no solutions are being found. So all we can do is we have to keep up the pressure and bring in awareness, and it's not just going to be a TRP story for 1 month when the pollution is high. We have to be relentless in getting this message across to the right people, so that everybody gets together and does something. Because at the end, the child who's dying, his father could be the BJP, the AAP, the Congress, the Communist Party. It doesn't matter. It's innocent lives which are being lost, and this is wholly preventable. It's like, you're willingly killing somebody. It's as bad as that. So I don't know what the solution is. I know what we can do to help ourselves. But you and I may be able to afford that. Everybody can't. So what happens to the person on the street? What happens to the child? What happens when you refuse to close schools and people go? I know of children who are going. Schools are organizing stayovers and activities and going out. I mean, are we blind? Schools will close in Delhi, but they will open in Noida. So what happens to a child who goes to a school there? So we have to have a uniform policy, like we did when we had COVID. We were under attack and we defended. This is actually a pretty bad time of the year, and we are under 3 attacks. Okay, the first attack is because of the changing weather and the humidity levels and the there are virals which are there, and this is a peak viral time. I know even in Dubai, London, they're having to combat a huge amount. So it's not an Indian problem; it's an international problem. The second is what we can't prevent is another virus called the RSV, respiratory syncytial virus. That's on the rampage. Add to that, in India, things like dengue, COVID, and then you bring in pollution, and it's terrible. So what are you going to do? I mean, you're going to just sit in the house with the air purifier? Or you're going to just wear a mask when you go out? You can't walk, you can't play. What do you do? I'm sorry, I'm at my wit's end.
No, so am I actually. And you speak about something needs to change, but and you speak about the schools as well. But I'm fascinated. I understand that senior classes have studies to do, but shutting schools till class 8 means what for class 9, 10, 11, 12? Do they have extra immunity? I mean, are they stronger enough to handle this pollution? I haven't been able to figure out that logic either.
Neither have I. So obviously. So let us see how we react to, or how individuals react to a crisis. You live in a place where there are power outages, you put in a generator. If there are security problems, you put in fences, you hire guards. So you find local solutions. Schools have to find the solution. They're charging a huge amount of fees, and so whether they do it by themselves, or they ask parents to pitch in as a one time, or they approach big houses to do that. They have to put in more measures in place so that when a child is in a class, he breathes good air. I mean, there is no other way to it, because you can't, and you know it and I know it, that this is not a 1 month in a year problem. This is a perennial problem. When you look at the world figures, you want air quality up to 50, which is good. So we've created another term. We've created satisfactory, which is 50 to 100. Okay, accepted. Then what happens when it goes to 100 to 200? Then comes the bad part, when it becomes, bad, very bad. And then over 400, it becomes hazardous. And I feel bad saying it if we are ready to learn to live with it, and we can't move out of Delhi because that's where our livelihood is, and our children have to go to school. We are paying the price for children not going to school for 2 years by huge amount of illnesses which are happening. Then what do? We have to, within the schools, create air environment which is breathable for the child. That's the only solution. It's sad, but that's the only thing that you can do. I mean, do only children up to sixth class fall ill? Do children above class don't fall ill? Of course they do. But we have to find temporary solutions till such time as a sustainable solution comes. And I don't think schools see it. It may sound very harsh. We face other things. So, for example, Delhi's had an outbreak of hand, foot, and mouth, and they'll shut it down for 1 day. That's not the solution. You need to involve healthcare professionals with schools. Take professional help. Take help from people who know about air quality. Take help from medical people, and then find a solution which is acceptable to all. Partner with the parents of the children. The children obviously are young; they can't do. So sit together in a parent-teacher meeting, try and come with a solution which is acceptable to all. So there are many things which cause pollution. So, if you just shut down construction, or you shut down diesel cars, it's going to impact 5%, 10%, but the major is coming from elsewhere, and you and I know that as well. So if we have thought and doing it over a number of years, that there is no will to find a solution, then we have to find the solution. We the people have to find the solution. There has to be somebody who nudges, and that's where influential people like you come in. You have to start the process of people thinking. You can't just switch on your air purifier and sit. We have to think for everybody, and unfortunately, like it or not, the show has to go on. So we have to find a solution. And a personal protection is to wear a mask, and the second is to have air purifiers, or have the AQI to a level which is acceptable. It's still going to be bad because many other activities can't go on. Children can't go out and play. Somebody who's training for the nationals can't go. Fatigue is going to sit in. People can't go out, so there'll be much more sitting in front of screens. It's not good. There's going to be a lot of bad mental health as well, besides physical health. But do we need to just move on and try and find some solution, and we need to do it quickly. And unless we start people thinking, we'll talk about this next year as well, as we've spoken the last few years. So I think time has come to understand that even if a solution comes, the solution is going to take time. And till we don't have that time, people's lives are being put in jeopardy. People are dying, and people don't know that they are dying because of pollution. People are turning asthmatic. You go out, you're short of breath, your eyes are watering, your nose is running. It's terrible. It's terrible. I mean, you step out in the morning and it's as though you stepped into a place where, there is smoke. Majority of the impact comes when children go to school. I think schools have to be a major partner in finding a solution. And we have to find a solution, and we have to make a change now. It's high time.
I agree with you. I think this is a conversation we can continue outside as well. How to just get people together to keep at it. Dr. Verma, you also spoke about the fact that children shouldn't go out, and I'm glad you actually brought that up because, I've had arguments with a lot of people, with a lot of parents over the years saying, why are you sending your children out to play? When the AQI is so high, or it's 400, 500, and the parents simply respond by saying children need to go out, they need some outdoor space, or we need to go for a walk. And so I feel like a lot also lies in us, doesn't it? Because if we are not comprehending it, or we are in denial about the issues, how are we going? I mean, I've had somebody who's been arguing with me in the last few days that schools should remain open. And all I say is, I said, your levels are 500, 600. Why should schools not shut down? Schools should remain open. Children need to go to school. So there's a lot, I feel like, we are evading as well ourselves.
I would say that part of this came because of COVID. Parents are just insisting on pushing their children out, whether it's to go to school when the child is, not fully recovered from an illness. And I understand that a child goes to school, and I am with them. But we need to put, others, so if you send a sick child to school, others are going to fall ill as well. Which brings us back to what I started with, is we need to educate people. They need to understand. So I have a very, very rich person who comes in and comes with the in-laws, and they say that, I don't want to use the air purifier. He says, why? I said, you're compromising. Bahar jayega, so they'll have good quality. So I said, what should I do? Should I give you an example? He said, sure, give it to me. I said, let's say you have a factory in Manesar and you have bad water. Please come and drink bad water in your house. He was shocked. He says, why? I said, that's exactly. We can't guarantee 24 hours clean air, but we can guarantee at least 12 hours. So we can at least minimize the damage which is happening. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to educate people. They need to understand. The first way to solve a problem is to accept that a problem exists. If it's like the ostrich which has got its head buried in the sand, if you don't know that there is a problem, you're not going to seek a solution. And the solution first is to get everybody on board. We need everybody thinking alike. And when everybody is thinking alike, then solutions come. So we need to, I don't know, we need to, in media or whatever, we need to launch a campaign. We need to educate people. People must know what is happening. They must go, they must see what is happening to other children who are impacted or other adults who are impacted. Only then, it's like when you see an accident, then for the next 5 minutes you drive slow, right? Before you start speeding again. If somebody is in class 9 or class 10, or if somebody is prepared for 6 months for and is going for the nationals in swimming, say, ठीक है, क्या हो जाएगा? 2 दिन में क्या फर्क पड़ जाएगा? So I can understand where people are coming from, but what if the institution were to say, sorry, there's going to be no sports till the AQI improves? So sometimes you have to do it for the others, and rather than expect that everybody will come on board with you.
What kind of changes you've been seeing in children? What is the impact that you are seeing in children who come to you over the years?
So obviously some things are common, like you can see respiratory is what you see most common. Almost 25 to 30 to 35% of children asthmatic. There was this survey which they did some years back, 2015, it's been replicated thereafter as well, that they started looking at the lung capacity of children. And they did that study in Delhi, Calcutta and 2 more cities, and 40% of children had deranged lung capacity. Now you may not know it. It's like I may have an artery block, but unless it reaches a critical level, I'll go on with normal function. But the damage has taken place. And that damage may not be evident now. The damage may be evident after 5 years, 10 years. And then it'll be too late because we'll not be able to put the lung back into shape. You may think it's the weather or he's got a viral. We are not understanding what implication the pollution is doing. Or if somebody turns around and develops a leukemia, say it's bad luck, one in 100,000 get it. But what if the pollution was something that we could damage? It's pretty much like, why do we take our children for vaccination? We want to prevent disease. So it's huge. So you have children who are coughing and coughing and coughing and coughing. And with each passing year, the number of children who are coming on to either a nebulizer or an inhaler, and not just conventional steroid inhalers and steroid nebulizers, is increasing. And we have no choice. And I don't put them, or the other doctors don't put them. I don't say I've been doing it for 40 years. So in my experience, these are standardized protocols on how diseases are managed. And their lungs are so inflamed and they're so damaged that they need extra medication which they would not normally have needed. So I don't know what we are doing, what kind of a future we are giving our children. Because if this is what is going to happen, it's only going to get worse and worse and worse.
What about those children, who've also had COVID recently? Would they be a little bit more compromised now?
Yes, they would. So we are just about beginning to come to terms with COVID, and we're also beginning to, understand that it's not that you've had COVID and you've recovered and things are hunky-dory. It's hitting your immune system. So suddenly you'll find that a child starts or an adult starts having hair loss or memory loss or cardiac dysfunction or autoimmune diseases. It's all in some way indirectly linked to COVID. So yes, I would certainly say that children who've been impacted with COVID, are impacted more with pollution. So it's like a double attack. So it's like attacking somebody who's already little weakened. So yes, COVID does play a role with it as well.
You're talking about compromised lungs. Should the residents of North India be checking? How should they be checking if their lungs are fine or not? Especially their children.
So honestly, the only way to check it is to do a test called a pulmonary function test, where you breathe out. So there is a forced expiratory volume. So it looks at the reserve of the lung. It's like blowing into a balloon. It looks into the reserve as to how much reserve your lung has. That is the only way that we can understand the implications of damage, if any, because there'll be people with compromised function who will have no symptoms.
Are we meant to check this every season? I mean, every winter? How does this work?
It's difficult to say. People are not happy to do routine tests. So here's one more test for which you have to pay. But yes, maybe maybe we could get people to sponsor a pilot study where we could take a cross section of children of different age groups, say 0 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 to 15, and do a study and maybe make a paper. I think that's possible. We could enroll some hospitals and we could enroll some maybe big houses to sponsor it, so that we can minimize the cost. But I think ultimately we'll have to start going and educating the schools. I keep coming back to that, so it's pretty much like, so if the school says, so that there are certain schools, so like say whether it's a British school or an American embassy school, some basic vaccines need to be done, right? So they do check with that. Maybe we can run a program in conjunction with school, that we sponsor the program and they allow enrollment of children in school, and it can be done in a mobile manner, that the machine can be taken and children can be checked. Because if the results are what I think they will be, and I'm pretty sure that they will be, it will be at least one more way of educating people. Maybe some action will take place.
Is the damage to lungs reversible? And if you've been outside, what can you basically comes down to what are the precautions as well?
There are no studies to show, because nobody's even documented how much damage takes place, so we can't say with any degree of certainty. But yes, as a doctor, I can say that if it is minuscule, that you go out just once or something and you have that, the body will fight and overcome it. But if it's a prolonged insult, then the damage is not going to be reversible. So interestingly, that's another study. Of course, it was done on adults, and it was done in conjunction by the cardiologist who started looking at the lungs when people came in for a bypass, and they came in for cardiac surgeries, and they found that there was a huge difference in the lungs of people who stayed in cities as compared to people who stayed in places which had a good AQI. So obviously there's a huge amount of damage which is being done. If I say that 5 years of somebody who's living in Delhi is going to die 5 years earlier, and if somebody dies at 80, you just say, yes, he's lived a good life. But he could have lived a good life till 85, right? So this is living in a gas chamber, and in a way sentencing ourselves and all those around us, especially the elderly and the children, to a certain death. So we have to find a solution. Imagine the air quality in Nainital today is 200, and it's you travel abroad and you go, and out of habit you look at the AQI and you find the AQI is 2, you can't breathe. You never had such pure air. So the only solution is to improve the quality of air within the houses and within their workplace. So if there is an adult who works for 8 hours or 10 hours in an office, or a child who goes for 8 hours to a school, we need to improve the air quality there, and we need to take measures to improve the air quality within our house. at least we can do it for those who afford to go to schools and who can afford, who are living in houses. Let's make a modest beginning, and then try and take it further. So here there is no reaction. Nothing happens unless the public then makes it an election issue that we will. So you make this an issue. Clean air is an issue. Whichever party comes to power, I couldn't care to which party they are from. This is something which needs to be promised, and this is something which needs to be delivered. That's the only language which they understand. So there has to be a kind of a people's movement, or people need to at least be aware, and let's each of us do what we can do ourselves, right? Instead of seeing what the other person is able to do.
Is there an immunity booster?
No, honestly no. Isn't it every week you find that there is somebody that who's being discovered with the cancer? Isn't it much more than it used to be 5 years back or 10 years back? And the impact is there. Let's learn from what happened in COVID. For 2 years, nobody moved out. People didn't fall ill. Children didn't fall ill. They didn't need to go. Even the adult illness fell down. Of course, there were some gray areas that people didn't go. But so things can be prevented.
When the AQI say hits a 400, what are the first 3 things that a family should do? Get indoors.
So, as I said, improve the quality of air in your house. Use air purifiers 24/7. That's one. Wear anti-pollution N95 mask when you step out, and minimize exertion. These are the 3 things that you can do.
And the air purifiers at home, could you say, for instance, I'm presuming you've stopped your tennis. Are you on the treadmill at home with air purifiers?
Yes, I am. So simple things, if you were to pray and not light an agarbatti, or you were to do wet mopping instead of dry mopping. You could share a car when you and your friend had to go out for dinner to the same place instead of wanting to go separately. You could restrict your amount of going out. Every little thing contributes. The problem is that we want solutions from others, but we are unwilling to do anything by ourselves. Why can't schools say, all right, nobody will come and everybody must come by the school bus, which is an electric bus? You have to find some solutions. They may sound harsh, but at the end, we have to start finding solutions within ourselves as well. We need to go to the next step, and that's why people like you are very, very important. So, you have to find the way to channelize people, channelize institutions, channelize schools, channelize political parties. Have to do it. You have to be unrelenting in the pressure that you. So because remember, when the pollution levels are 220 and we are having a good time and I'm playing my tennis in the morning, I'm still damaging myself, right? So we need to make the change for things to improve, and we owe it to the next generation.
I keep saying the pollution doesn't disappear in the summer just because it's a little bit sunny doesn't mean anything. I was speaking to an environmentalist who actually turned around and said, this year we've had just one good day through the year, and that was in September. Just one good day that would be acceptable by Western standards, where they'll shut down things at the level of 60 or so. So it has to be relentless. It has to be through the year. I mean, we can't just let it go the moment it disappears, the shout disappears, and people just come out to run the marathons, which is going to happen now in November, December anyway. Thank you so much, Doc, and very informative as always.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. And thanks everybody. Thank you.